You know what? Sometimes being last to the party is the best thing. What's going on, guys? I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and we played around and worked with the AT&T and Sprint versions of the Galaxy S2. Well, now it's T-Mobile's turn. Here it is, T-Mobile's Galaxy S2, a little bit of a different design and a different processor as well, a dual-core 1.5 gigahertz Snapdragon S3 processor. So performance may be a little bit different on this device than it is on the Epic 4G Touch and on the Galaxy S2. So they've broken from the mold there, but otherwise still looks a lot like a Galaxy device. It has a 1,850 big milliamp hour battery, and it has an 8 megapixel camera, 1080p HD video recording, a front-facing camera, Android 2.3 and more. So it's definitely a feature-packed handset, and it's available now at T-Mobile for $230. Is this the one to get? Because it's going up against the HTC Amaze 4G, another awesome Android handset. It's a little bit more expensive, but has a nice build quality to it. Is this the one to get, or should you go with the Amaze, or maybe even something else on T-Mobile? We'll find out that and more in the review, but first, gotta give some love to my boys at Best Buy because they hook us up with phones just like this. I actually requested some Galaxy S2s, so be on the lookout for those for use in our One Ball Bandit game. When you walk into Best Buy Mobile, you don't have to deal with rebates. I hate rebates. I hate paperwork. I hate those stupid debit card things they send because honestly, I just want to check to go into my banking account. But you don't have to worry about that with Best Buy Mobile. You don't have to worry about rebates, anything like that. The instant prices are posted, and when you walk out that door, not dealing with any paperwork. It's pretty cool. Enough of that, let's get into it. Galaxy S2, T-Mobile, is this the one to get? Should you go with one of the others? Or maybe you should go with something like the HTC Amaze 4G? We'll find out in the review, which starts right now. So you know what? It's last of the party, but that doesn't always mean that it's not the best. What's going on, guys? Here it is, the T-Mobile Samsung Galaxy S2. It's coming to the carrier, actually available now for $229.99. So it's right there with the HTC Amaze 4G, which just came out also for $259.99. So a bunch of high-end awesome Android phones, and this is the third and final US version of the Galaxy S2 after AT&T Samsung Galaxy S2 and Sprint Samsung Epic 4G Touch. Now this one deviates from the actual original device as well. You can see here bigger display, just like the Epic 4G Touch. It has a 4.52-inch Super AMOLED display, whereas the international one had a 4.3-inch display, just like AT&T's version. So a little bit of a difference there, and the screen, the display and the chassis is a little bit different. Also, you can see 4 capacitive buttons down here. You can see on the back. The hump is still here, but it's all part of one battery door as opposed to kind of having the hump separate and the battery door starting here and going up. So some minor design differences. Also an improvement in the battery life department. It has a 1,850 milliamp hour battery. So it's 50 milliamp hours bigger than Sprint's Epic 4G Touch battery. So it does claim the prize of having the largest battery. Now that said, this device sports T-Mobile's HSPA Plus 42 megabits per second. Now in real life, you're never going to see those fast speeds, but you will see speeds somewhere between 5 and 12 megabits per second pretty regularly. I can say since using this, I've been seeing speeds both in San Diego and here in the Charlotte metro area between about 4 megabits per second with heavy traffic all the way up to about 12 megabits per second in perfect areas. So definitely some fast internet speeds there, but just to walk through some of the specs, here's a big difference on this device. It is not using Samsung's Exynos processor. This one ventures off because the Exynos processor, they were having some issues with compatibility on this device, and so they included a 1.5 gigahertz Snapdragon dual-core processors, an S3 Snapdragon. So a different processor as well. Same 8 megapixel camera with a flash, although it looks a little bit different on the back. Android 2.3 with Samsung's TouchWiz 4.0. Now the interesting thing is, and the thing everybody wondered is, well, the Snapdragon processor, even though it's a faster clock speed, 1.5 as opposed to 1.2, will it compete with Samsung's Exynos processor, which has just won rave awards and has been reviewed and had some great positive reviews in the media? You know what I'm going to tell you? I'm going to spoil this a little bit. Even though with a faster clock speed, I do notice a little bit of lag on this one as opposed to the Epic 4G Touch and the Galaxy S2. Now the average user is never going to notice this. You can see here scrolling from side to side, you can see that there's really no deviation. If you give me 1 second here so I can get these out, I'll show you exactly what I mean. Pull these away here. And you can see exactly what I mean. So we'll go over here and we'll go into messages, for example, and we'll go into texting, and you can see the transitions just aren't as smooth. Now, it's something you, again, the average user won't notice. It seems to be a perfectly fast device, but I notice anywhere from web browsing and more, doing text messages, things like that, I notice it's just a little bit stuttery from time to time, particularly when there are a lot of apps running. And you can see just there that it kind of stuttered a little bit in between transitions from one home screen to the other. But otherwise, you know, outside of the processor, outside of the screen, it's identical to the international Galaxy S2. You can see, you know, it's typical fast typical fast performance, and again, the average user should be perfectly fine with that. But it has TouchWiz 4.0 as well. So out of the box, you get 411 and more, Asphalt 6, you get All Share, you get bonus apps, Flash Player settings. Now, this is running Android 2.3.5 along with TouchWiz 4.0. Like I said, keys or Kai's Air. Look out. Somebody actually said the other day that I should talk to Samsung and see if it's keys or Kai's. I've heard it both ways, so I'll try to get an official answer for you. Samsung's Media Hub here. More for me. T-Mobile's my account, my device. Netflix pre-installed. Quite a bit of bloatware and just additional applications. You can see T-Mobile Name ID, T-Mobile TV, and then quick video chat, visual voicemail, and Zenio Reader. So you get quite a few applications out of the box. So you get some T-Mobile stuff there, and then you have 7 home screens from side to side, just like the others. And it looks like we have a bunch of programs open. So you can see here is the task manager. You know, Samsung, HTC, and Motorola have been very good about installing built-in task killers, so you don't have to download third-party solutions like Advanced Task Killer from the Android market. So all I have to do is exit all those, and we are out of those programs and ready to go. So typical TouchWiz 4.0 format. It's funny, if you've worked with something like the Droid Charge and Fuse 4G or any of these older Samsung devices that were running TouchWiz and you didn't like it, take a look at the Galaxy S2 series because it's a huge revision from previous Samsung devices. You can see here, and I'll show you, it's just much faster, much more optimized for Android, and you can see quick and easy transitions, and the widgets look great. You can see here's a weather and a clock widget, for example. And let's roll through some of these and take a look. So not only do you get this nice custom add to home kind of menu down here at the bottom as opposed to the typical blocky Android one that pops up, but you have the ability to scroll between your 7 home screens while you're waiting. So let's go all the way over here, let's say to this one. We're going to add some widgets, and you see they pop up down here. Now what I like is just all the little creativity elements that went into this. For example, when you scroll from side to side, you can see the widgets kind of shift like a bookshelf would, or like, that's pretty much the best example I can come up with, like a bookshelf, and you can see some of the widgets. So you get quite a few widgets out of the box now. You get a ton of date options, a ton of clock options. You get Buddies Now, bookmarks, you get AP Mobile, Application Monitor, which is what you saw over there that was with the 3, and we just canceled out the apps on. You get AccuWeather and Agenda, and you get, of course, the typical Google stuff. I have voice installed. So news and weather on there as well. And then traffic, Twitter, Weather Channel, some stuff. I've downloaded AccuWeather again. And actually, I'm just scrolling back through that list. But let's jump out of that, and I want to show you something else that I really like. And this is something I constantly praise Motorola for. Now, the widgets are customizable. So let's say you're in an area like, let's say this. You have a really tight spot here. You want to maximize the use of widgets on the screen. You can do so now with most of the widgets on TouchWiz. They're customizable, so you can make them your own. You can make them like this. However you want to, you can put 2 new widgets down here and customize to your heart's content. So I like that because while HTC Sense has some beautiful widgets, they're also very big. And so, you look at the big widgets and you're like, okay, you have these little small spaces like this. None of HTC's widgets are going to fit in there. So this is a nice touch, a nice addition to TouchWiz 4.0, and it's great to see it on the device. Let's take a look at messaging. I'm going to jump in here. And you just saw what I mean there, that little bit of lag, and again, not noticeable to the average consumer, but after you've worked with, and if you've watched my videos on the Epic 4G Touch, on the International Galaxy S2, or on AT&T's Galaxy S2, those things don't exist with the Exynos processor. Very rarely do they happen. So let's go in here into the new message, and first of all, to show you, you get 2 keypads on the T-Mobile version. You get Samsung's keypad, and you get swipe, and we'll cancel out of that and go back here and say, the Quick Brown Fox wishes UPS hadn't lost his Verizon iPhone 4S. Yes, friends, I ordered, well, I should say the Quick Brown Fox, ordered an iPhone 4S for use on the site so we could do an unboxing today, and UPS lost it. So, waiting to get another one. Thanks to a great friend that I know. Sprint one is on the way. But you can see here, pretty quick and easy to type on it. Because it has a 4.52-inch display, when you type in landscape mode, it's going to be much easier to type. So somebody with large thumbs or somebody that has a hard time typing on a touchscreen display is going to find a lot to like on this device, both in portrait and in landscape. Now, Samsung's keypad isn't my favorite, but that said, you can download quite a few from the Android market. You can download Gingerbread's keyboard, you can download SwiftKey, and a couple of different free and paid options, but still stuff that's under $5 as well. But you've got that, you have swipe if that's your thing, but you can just see that the interface itself in comparison to TouchWiz 3.0 is substantially different here. So let's go from that, and you can see here messaging is a little bit different. Now, one thing actually before we go into the web browsing, I want to show you this as well. If you remember on the international version, just below font size, you have the option to change those text bubbles. You can make them different colors. You can kind of do some customization options. That option is not available on the T-Mobile one or the Sprint one or the AT&T one, for that matter. They pulled out that customization choice. That said, you still can change the font size, and you can download custom fonts for the device itself by going to settings and getting add more fonts. So you do have that option, but still kind of cool to have the ability to change up the text bubbles and the colors in in the text messaging interface. Let's take a look at PhoneDog.com and the browser here. And actually, before we do that, I'm going to show you this. And you can see here, T-Mobile up there and the network ID, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS, silent mode, and auto rotation shortcuts up top. So it's interesting to look and see how those differ from carrier to carrier. But that's what you get on the T-Mobile version as well. So let's go over to PhoneDog.com and have a look and let it load up. Now again, T-Mobile is running HSPA plus 42 in this area, and while you'll never see speeds of 42 megabits per second, it has been pretty decent. I've seen speeds between 4 megabits per second, consistently between 4 and as high as 12 megabits per second. So you can definitely get some nice speeds on T-Mobile's HSPA plus 42 if you're in that area. This device, the HTC Amaze, can both support that. And on that topic, be sure to check out the dogfight on Monday between the Galaxy S2 and the HTC Amaze 4G. It's going to be a close one because they're both hot Android phones. They just appeal to two different people. So you can see here, pinch to zoom, but you can just see it's just wonky. Did you see how when I pulled out like that, I didn't pull all the way out of the display or pull all the way out of the page itself, and it automatically went into preview mode. So just very interesting little things like that. But again, portrait to landscape transition is very fast. I'm not negating the speed of the processor. I just don't feel like it's optimized quite for TouchWiz 4.0 and maybe for the internal software that this device is running on the Samsung side. So you still have pinch to zoom. It's still reasonably fast. And you still have all the Samsung elements here. When you pinch all the way out, it does go into preview mode. You can see exactly where you left off. So if you want to open up a second window, come down here, and I'll go to open a new window, and it leaves me right off there so I can know when I come back I was reading the T-Mobile Galaxy S2 early review. Now this is a cool feature. You can put both your thumbs on the screen and zoom in and out. And I'm actually loading up a second page, so it's cool that it's doing it right now. And you can see some checkerboarding, but again, nothing too major there. And we'll back up here and take a look again. And just so I can show you that that ability. It's pretty cool. You put both your thumbs on the screen, zoom in and zoom out by doing that. But again, quite a bit of checkerboarding on this device as opposed to the other devices, the Galaxy S2 on AT&T and the Epic 4G Touch.